We are good to go.
I call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Yes, Mr. Treves,
Here.
Ms. Neff,
Here.
Mr. Pax, Ms. Ross,
Here.
and Ms. Sundar.
Here.
Okay, everybody's here.
Anyone who intends to testify, please raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, state I do.
I do.
And when it's your turn to testify, please come up to the mic, state your full name, your address, and affirm that you've been sworn in. Thank you. New business, I guess.
Alrighty, thank you, Mr. Treves. So we have one case on this evening. It consists of 4 different variances and a conditional use. This is variance case number VA-CU-23-13. The applicant is the Kessler Sign Company. The owner is Tim Donut, U.S. Limited, Incorporated. The subject site is 9037 Owen Field Drive, Lewis Center, Ohio, 43035. The parcel number for the site is 318-324-02-003-009 and is currently zoned Planned Commercial and Office District. The request this evening is they are seeking a conditional use from the Orange Township Zoning Resolution, Section 22.04A, to allow for the installation of a monument-style sign. They're also seeking 4 area variances, 2 of which are variances from Section 22.03C for wall signs to be above the allowed height of 15 feet, 1 area variance from Section 22.06J to allow for the total sign area to be above the allowed 3 square feet per foot of lot frontage, and an additional variance from Section 22.06J for the total sign area of one side of the building to be above the allowed 3 square feet per foot of lot frontage. So it's pretty kind of a complicated request, but we'll move forward. More of the description. So the subject property is located east of Owenfield Drive and west of US 23. The site was formerly a Wendy's and Tim Hortons and is currently owned by Tim Donut, U.S. Limited, Incorporated. The owner plans to build a new building, including new signage. The new construction was approved back in May under permit number 20230289. Under rezoning case number 5888 is the zoning for the Planned Commercial District. And then moving forward again, so they have multiple different variances. One of which for the wall sign height, one of the signs proposed proposed at 16 feet 2.5 inches, and another wall sign is proposed at 16 feet in height.
Before you move on the first page, the partial ID is different than the partial ID on the staff report.
That might be the is it on the agenda? The single page, yeah. Yeah, that we caught the parcel number after we had drafted all this, so it's correct on the staff report.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yes, thank you. Okay, the applicant is also requesting 2 variances from the same section, 22.06J. The first variance is to allow for the total signage area of the entire property to exceed that 3 square feet per lineal foot of the building frontage. And the second variance is from the same section to allow for the total signage area of one side of the building to exceed that amount. Lastly, they are requesting conditional use for their monument sign. So surrounding the property on all sides is zoned Planned Commercial and Office District. To the north and south are commercial uses. To the east is US 23, as well as some commercial. And then to the west is Owenfield Drive, as well as the Meyer is there. So you can see that in the aerial snapshot from the Delaware County Auditor's website. Okay, so just to kind of break this up, so area variance request number 1 is for their front, which is the east side wall sign height. So under section 22.03C1, it reads that all display signs shall be mounted on the building which houses the business establishment advertised by such signs, except as otherwise specifically authorized by this resolution. And then it goes on to talk about the 15 feet height requirement. So the front east sign is proposed at a height of 16 feet 2 1/2 inches, which encroaches into the permitted maximum height of 15 feet, which is a total of 1 foot and 2 1/2 inches, which is roughly an 8% variance request. We do have an exhibit number 1, which shows the proposed sign there facing the front of the building, which is the eastern side, which faces Route 23. The measurements in red there show where the 15 feet maximum height is allowed and then what they're proposing. Okay, on to variance request number 2, which is the right side of the building, which is the north, for their wall sign height. Again, so that they have that 15 feet height requirement restriction. The right north side sign is proposed at a height of 16 feet, which encroaches 1 foot into that 15 feet height requirement. This is roughly a 7% variance request. And we do have exhibit number 2 that shows the proposed sign there, the 15 feet and 16 feet in proximity to where the proposed sign is at. Okay, so variance request number 3. So section 22.06J is the signage area, the maximum signage area section that regulates how much they're allowed to have on the site. So I'm going to read through this whole thing here. I'll kind of go through staff's interpretation of this. So section 22.06J, for signage area, the aggregate sign area or display surface of all exterior signs of every nature shall not exceed 3 square feet for each lineal foot of the street frontage of such building, up to a maximum of 1,200 square feet, street frontage being defined as the total width of that side of the building which faces the street, excluding any extension of a building wall beyond the building itself. In the case of a corner lot or other situation where the building site abuts more than one public street, only the street frontage of the building along one such public street, as specified by the applicant, shall be used in determining the aggregate sign area or display surface of all exterior signs of every nature, and signs may be permitted on the basis of area authorized above for each lineal foot of that street frontage up to the stated maximum. The total sign area of all exterior signs of every nature on any one side of a building shall not exceed the allowable area computed in accordance with the foregoing rules. In the case of a building which does not front a public street, as in shopping centers, the drives and parking areas adjacent to such building shall be considered as public streets for the purpose of this resolution, provided that where any such drive or parking area abuts a residential district, the frontage of the building on such drive or parking area shall not be considered as frontage for such purpose if the distance from such building to the nearest private property in said residential district is less than 150 feet. So that's a mouthful, but kind of moving on. So it kind of talks about in there about how we calculate the building frontage and the maximum allowable signage area for the entire site, as well as any one side of the building. So that's why they have to get this variance request twice from the same section, because they exceed it for the total site as well as on one side of the building.
Excuse me, Brent. I have
Yeah.
a question. 30 north, is this plan view, we're looking at here, top plan north on this view?
Yes.
It is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it from, in relation to the overall site plan, seeing the situation north up.
Yes. Yep.
Just wanted to make sure it's clear on that.
Yes. So kind of going off this picture in Exhibit 3, as well as above. So the total width of the building frontage along Route 23 measures at 40 feet. So just using what's allowed, so 40 feet of the building frontage times 3 is a maximum of 120 square feet, which is the total allowable square footage for both the entire site and any one side of the building. So you can see there in Exhibit 3, that's the site plan that was submitted for the actual building itself, which was approved earlier this year, back in May. And then moving on to exhibit number 4. Now this is just kind of the table that calculates all of the square footage for every sign that was proposed in their sign package when they applied for their permits. So just for clarification, front faces east, left faces south, and right faces north. That should all be there in exhibit 4. It also notes on the sides there which of the wall signs they're requesting the variances for, as well as the conditional use for the monument sign. So on to variance request number 4, pretty similar in nature just to like variance request number 3. This is to exceed the total allowable signage area on one side of the building, which would be the north side there. So down below on that part where it outlines request number 4, they're proposing 170.41 square feet on the north side of the building, which exceeds that 120 square foot maximum, which is a 42% variance request. For the previous one, for the total allowable area for the entire site, that is a 206% variance request.
Brent,
So, yes.
Can you explain on the table how your math works? Did you add up only the things that require the variance, or it's everything here?
This is everything that they're proposing is added into that total.
Okay. So shutters count?
Yeah, so just kind of the way that our signage code outlines it, like anything like that they're proposing on the building, that would count towards their signage. Since it kind of has their the copyrighted logo, that's what it talks
On the
about.
shutters?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll look at it.
And that's kind of actually really what the bulk of that request is for that north side of the building when they exceed that. I mean, they have 3 different shutters and each one of them's 32 square feet. So that math adds up pretty quick. Onto the conditional use for the monument sign. This one's a little bit more straightforward. You know, kind of going through the different requirements for the conditional use for the monument sign. There are no variances from this section. They do comply with everything in that conditional use section. You know, the proposed sign base is the same distance as the actual length of the sign. I believe it's in their signage details. It shows the exhibits for the monument sign. It's actually in Exhibit 5 in the staff report. So they are proposing monument style sign, proposed feet of 8 feet in height from grade to the top of the sign, and the sign will be set back a minimum of 15 feet from the property line off Route 23. So that complies there. It has 2 sides. As far as coloration, you know, staff, we believe that they comply with that since it has black, white, orange, teal, and that kind of wooden pattern. Black and white don't count towards those colors, so they comply with the color limit there.
I've got a question about the diagram.
Mm-hmm.
I see Popeyes on what it looks to be the end of the sign, not the sides. The word Popeyes,
That's
Yeah.
the front of the sign. It's
That's
it's
fine.
rather
Okay.
narrow.
Yes.
because on the other one, it looked like there was,
Yeah, so I believe they're almost kind of like channel letters, so they will project a little bit off of the sign. That's the picture to the right there that you're seeing is kind of the side profile of it versus the one on the left there will be kind of what you're seeing if you drive up and down 23 is what they're proposing.
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a
Yeah.
longer portion of that sign.
Right. Yep.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is there any proposal for the lights, like aluminum lights or anything now or later, you think?
Yeah, I believe they do note that it will be illuminated. And the applicant's here, so they can certainly speak to that once you wrap up the staff report here.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
And yeah, and again, going just through all the different standards for the monument sign, staff, we didn't really see any issues there. So that's all that staff has in the staff report. The applicant is here, so I'm sure they're happy to cover anything that we missed or answer any of you guys' questions. So thank you.
Would you like a chance to speak? Yeah. One at a time, please. State your name, your address, and that you've been in front.
Okay, I'm Adam Kessler with Kessler Sign Company. Our address is 2669 National Road, Zanesville, Ohio. So where should we start at the beginning, I guess?
Wherever you want.
Let's start at the top. Just kind of as you went through, we can go back through the top and that again. So the first request is our client Popeyes this is their new branded store that they're rolling out across the country. And with this branded store, the signs do sit at the level that you see there, which is actually from ground. So when construction's done, there'll be a curve. So you take away like 6 inches from that. And then, so you're down to like 8.5-ish. And then with their construction, there's also on the interior where the sign connects to the lighting, for the lighting to illuminate, it gets a little messy in there if it's not above the ceiling. So the sign needs to be at that height to kind of avoid that, messiness of below the ceiling, wires could be everywhere and get a little crazy. So ideally, we go back to construction, revise all those plans, but ideally this would be the right height for everything to fit as they do with their whole rollout.
And that's the 16 versus 15?
Yeah, the red line that you see there.
And that's kind of the standard for
Yeah,
the new
across,
sign.
their new store development, yeah.
No.
Would you like to proceed?
Sure. It's the same deal on the second sign there. It falls in the same line. This is just a circle, so it's a little shorter than the other one, just how it falls. But again, we just did their stores in New Albany and Dublin. It works out well like this, and there isn't a bunch of, reconfiguring on the back end if you can keep it like this. But again, things happen. I think we'd be able to adjust, but ideally not. So again, this would be more like 15.5 feet versus 16 due to the curve after construction and everything.
Would you like me to pull up other signs from the building, or?
Yeah, sure. Okay, you have this screen. Okay, there should be a full elevation. Yeah, there you go.
That one?
Yeah. Well, this is go back. This is the first one. So this would be, the 16, 15, 8.
So I have one quick question on that. So I understand this is the elevation that's going to be facing 23. It's the
Yes.
front. So are the letters backlit illuminated on the pop?
They're illuminated, yeah.
Okay. The graphic to the left on the faux wood,
Yes.
is that also illuminated?
Halo lit, so there's a glow.
Okay. Thank you.
We don't have any concerns with the lights, with the zoning issues though, correct? That's not part of it.
No, when we do our permitting, we'll make sure that whatever they're proposing complies with the general regulations in
Okay.
terms of lighting, so.
So I believe like it's okay with whatever they have proposed.
The halo lit.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Then if you go to, you can go to the second elevation now. Keep going down. Yep, there's the seal logo to the left is. Yeah. Because it is connected, those other two signs are not illuminated, so that the seal gets connected on the inside to electric.
Love that chicken does not.
No.
And which direction does this face?
This is-
North.
The chicken, that, is it facing inside or
No, this is we're facing the parking lot.
parking lot?
Yeah,
And this is the north side.
north side.
Why, I noticed, Brett, I'm not getting this in the staff report under area variance request number 2, it says right side north wall.
Yeah, so in their permitting and kind of how they submitted, they identify this in their plans. You can see there to the bottom left where it says right side. They just call this the right side elevation. So we just wanted to include that it was actually the north side. Just
So actually, this elevation that we're showing here is just part of the elevation here on the staff report. It only shows
yes,
the-
yeah, it's cut off.
Okay.
Yeah, we just wanted to zoom in on that one.
Just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something.
Yep. Yeah, we just wanted to zoom in a little bit to make it easier to see.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions?
Do you want to say something else?
No, I love that chicken is non-illuminated graphic.
We need your address and
Roger Kessler, 170 Pinehurst Drive, Granville, Ohio. And
And you've been sworn. Sorry, just say yes, you've been sworn.
yes, so it's non-illuminated and it's just a thing, not necessarily a sign, just kind of, kids love it, and that's what it's all about.
But as far as the heights, I think we're good with, I mean, unless there are any questions regarding just the heights, we'll probably move on from that.
So number 3. Area variance 3.
Yes.
Is that what we're
Yeah.
talking
Yes.
about?
Yeah.
Which is adding up all the signs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this is where it gets a little complicated.
Yeah.
Or tricky. So we've looked at this a bunch of different ways. We had to do this in Dublin as well. So we got there, but just with a little shifting, I guess. But first, the drive-through element. So we discussed earlier when we first got here that the drive-through canopies, they're listed as order canopy 2 and order canopy 1 on your chart.
Yeah.
Those were mistakenly filed as sign permits. We had to get permits for them because it's part of our sign package, but they're not technically signs under your code. So we can eliminate that 14 square feet kind of off it.
Yeah, just for the board's clarification here. So in the signage details, kind of like their order menu where the canopy is. So they apply for permits for these. And so we had included these in their square footage totals where they kind of list up near the top of the order canopy as 7 square feet. They have 2 of them. There's not actually any words or any identifying factors there, so it's not technically a sign. So we can subtract 14 square feet from this total, which reduces the request down to 195%.
And then along the lines of the drive-through, you've got your menu boards, your preview board, your clearance bar that just calls out to the clearance of what you're going to be driving into, and your directional signs as you need to maneuver around. So these are, technically just instructional safety, kind of like to do business in 2023 and operate a drive-through, you got to have these elements. I mean, they're kind of like, hopefully we can understand that 70% of their business is through the drive-through. So that's kind of like starting point, I guess, of the bare minimum of what would be needed. And none of the elements are, crazy signage amounts there. And I think it all makes sense.
That's the directional 1 and 2 that are 3.
Yep, 3 each, and then the clearance for preview at 8.05 and the 2 main boards at 24.81.
What changes did you make in Dublin?
I can tell you now. Okay. So what we did was we took away the shutters, the decorative elements along the north side there. So that was.
But you left the big love that chicken.
Yeah,
Steak.
that did become. It came down to those two, and everybody agreed that as a branding moment and to get excited about this new brand launching in Columbus. This was their first one in Dublin of the new store development in all of Ohio. So everybody was really excited about it, and hopefully it's kind of like an Instagram moment, I guess, for kids if you want the business to succeed, and that was kind of a big takeaway. So that got us down there. Oh, we're still over, but agreed upon by the team in Dublin that we were dealing with. So yeah,
Going back to the louder chicken, like which faces the north side, is it something like standard? I'm sorry, I have not noticed the Popeye structure much.
Yeah. So this again is part of the new brand launch in the area. So this will be the 3rd store that will have that. Or actually, no, nobody does this. It'll be the 2nd store, and it's just a dimensional, sign graphic that gets you excited about the Popeyes brand. And I think their hopes are people take photos of it and post it and get more people to the store and get excited about it. I guess it's their mantra.
It's their jingle.
Yeah, exactly.
Their musical jingle.
Yeah.
Just making sure. Thank you.
Yeah. It's really the only place that they really show it. So that's why it is on the larger size at 65.41 square feet. But obviously, if you take it away, you have this big blank wall, and that's not a lot of fun. So. And then, I think other places like in Dublin, they didn't count the monument sign or the road sign as part of the total sign package. So that kind of dings us here a little bit when you put in that 32 square feet of monument sign, which you obviously have to have. People know your business is there. And then the other identifiers on the building are really just, channel letters that do illuminate. So if you're driving, at night to get your Popeyes fix, it's there. Kind of is what it is with those. I think it's really comes down to those decorative elements, shutters, which are nice, but I guess more of an architectural feature than signage really, but if it falls under signage, we understand. But ideally the client would obviously like to have everything. We had to give something away, I think. You'd be comfortable with that.
No, sir.
Are there any comments from the public? Please allow him to
Switch you out.
Oh.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mark Freeman, 478 Glenside Lane in Powell.
And you were sworn in?
I was sworn in. I'm here wearing a few hats, really. I'm an alternate on the zoning commission. So I have a very strong interest in trying to see that things comply with the zoning. On the other hand, I love Popeye's chicken. And I really want to see it succeed. Could you bring up the shutters that are
Yes.
being mentioned?
Did you want to see them on the building?
Yeah.
Okay.
From the diagram, that seems strange.
Mark, do you want to see them on other papers? You might be
Yeah.
able to see them more.
It, personally, it doesn't seem to me like it's a thing that really adds to the branding, and it jacks their total sign square footage way up, which I think is why it got pulled in Dublin. I think that would be a reasonable thing to deny here in favor of letting them have some of the other things that they want. One of the things that has to be looked at, do we have a view of the property from street level or just the overhead?
You could pull it up on Google Maps.
Yeah, I can pull it up. Although it will be a new building, that the existing building.
I understand, but even just the overhead is probably good. It's a narrow piece of property.
Well, one end, yeah.
Well, that's the end that faces High Street, right? 23.
No, the widest end faces.
Andrew, if you can go back to the first tab with the auditor's website. So it is a really long and narrow parcel. So
Yeah.
the front of the building faces east, Route 23. So it is fairly narrow there.
Yeah, the long end faces north.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be where the windows are for the drive-through and so forth. So when cars are going by that at 35, 45 miles an hour, it's reasonable that we want people to be able to see what this building is. I don't know that an extra foot and 3 inches of height helps that much. But we do want to make sure that they've got an opportunity, the drivers, I mean, just to see that. And depending on which direction they're going, if they're going northbound, they can immediately turn left in the driveway that's just off the top of this photo and come around to the Popeyes. There we go. If they are coming southbound, they then see the building and can then turn right in the drive at the bottom. If they're in that situation and they are then heading north on Owenfield, they then have to find the building from the back. My concern is no one has talked about the signage, if any, on that side of the building. Before I came here, I took that drive. The building just to the north of this property is what?
Meyer?
Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons.
Morton's.
Going along that drive, there isn't a single sign for the Tim Hortons. I asked, not being too facetious, if anyone knew what that was, because from Owenfield, there's no way to tell. I have a photo on my phone if anybody's interested, but it's a very small, nondescript building with zero signage visible from Owenfield from any angle. Not ideal if someone is just casually driving by and sees a sign and goes, donut sounds good to me right about now. They get none of that. There's no impulse buys, if you will. because there's no signage there, and I'd hate to see the same thing happen to Popeyes. If people are just driving through for some other reason, it would be nice if they knew what that building was. And I'd like to see some allowance for signage on that side of the building, if it's not too late, which of course would increase their square footage. So I think we want to reduce it in other places.
That's up to the applicant.
True. I'm only partially talking to the board. This building was originally supposed to be operating last October, so I'm very anxious and not holding anything up because I want my chicken. But anyway, that's the gist of what I have to say. Is I think that we ought to try to stick with the standards where we can. I don't think that giving them an extra foot or foot and a third or whatever really adds much to what they're trying to accomplish. And I'd rather not give a variance where we don't need one. On the other hand, I think it's pretty clear that they do need a variance in terms of the total amount of signage in terms of square footage that they need, especially considering that the street view of that property is so small because it's just oriented the way the property is, and I think we need to compensate for that in some way. Thank you.
So, I, like Mr. Freeman, live back in the High Meadows, Green Meadows area, and our neighborhood is very supportive of restaurants along there, and we are very excited and anxiously awaiting this Popeye. So, I'm sure many of our neighbors share his sentiment.
Excuse me, to address that issue the gentleman brought up. I've been in this business for 45 years, and I think I'm one of the best there is. That's just my opinion. But I agree with you. And Adam and I were there earlier today, and we looked at it and says, you know, he pointed out there's a lot of neighborhood back there, a lot more than I knew. He did his homework better than I did, but he's young. So I think we took one of a directional sign and put Popeyes on it, maybe a total of 10 square feet, and a sign that would say, you know, enter on the site plan right back here. So as you enter, there's one directional there, for 3 square feet, another one here. If we increase the one that says enter to 10 square feet, we'll be able to get the logo on there and the word Popeyes, and then put entrance as well. And I think that would serve to be a safety issue, number one, which is more important. We certainly don't want any collisions back there. And I think that would solve the problem and not have still have a small sign.
So just for clarification, so you're talking about modifying your current request for one of the signs to make it larger?
Yeah.
For larger signage?
Put in the logo.
As far as,
A 3-foot sign, square foot sign, we're now making it 10 square feet, right?
right, I was going to say that does staff's input does trigger an additional variance. Any directional type signage are required to be a maximum of 3 square feet. So if you were proposing
We could call it second line or something like that.
You could.
then you'd be requesting a divergence or a variance,
Well,
excuse me, from.
Could we do this? And I understand you have rules, because I've been digging these. We would like to keep this, get something approved tonight, if you guys feel comfortable with the understanding we'll come back the next meeting and address that sign back there. If a variance is needed or whatever we need to do, we'll get with him and figure that out, so it's done properly. But, I think you made a great suggestion and one that we should be able to do.
I like your idea because having a sign that says enter doesn't help anybody if they don't know why. What are we entering? What's this for? The idea of just having a sign that says enter, unless your colors are so well known, like maybe with Wendy's, that could get away with it. But since Popeyes is new to the area, I think we need some kind of branding on that sign.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. So that's just a suggestion. That kind of works for y'all.
One thing that I think would be helpful, frankly, is on the site plan itself that was submitted. It's not actually showing the meets and bounds of the property and how it engages Owen Field, the access from Owen Field. I'd like to know a little bit more on where some of these signs may be located, and then also for the signs that you do have for entry, one way, do not enter, those signs. Yeah, there we go. That's very helpful.
Is that in our packet?
It isn't. Yeah. That's very helpful. And seeing the parking, frankly, also is helpful for the scale of it to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know.
Before we send it this way.
I mean, the one thing I say to the point is when people are driving on 23 and they're pulling onto Owen Field to get to Popeyes, where that one monument sign, the 8-footer, is going to be there and pretty well noticeable, I would say, where it's being proposed, that it may take one driver one time that he may drive by me, but that is going to be a destination that they will frankly kind of know, even in my opinion on this, that they see the drive-through, they see the signage there, they see some of the signage on the side. I think that it's going to be pretty well a destination to that point that they will be able to know to pull in the parking lot to get to the Popeyes.
I agree with you. Over time, that would certainly be the case. And for most people, the first time, it's the southbound traffic that is really more to the point. If you could pull up the overhead.
Well, hang on a second.
Yeah.
We're not here to redesign this application. That's not our job.
Understood.
We're to look at what has been proposed and act on that. So while I welcome all the comments, if you could keep them specifically to either wanting to help improve or approve, or you would rather they all go away to the south part of France or something. I don't care. But we've got to focus in on what our intent and our mission is for tonight.
Fair enough.
Okay?
I think to the points made about signage in that area, I go to that new Tim Hortons at least 3 times a week. And I almost drive by it or almost pull into the old Wendy's because you can't, to Mr. Freeman's point, it's not easy to see which building is which. So, I mean.
And it's worse at night.
Again, that's their design.
No, but I'm saying like more sign on the building. I don't know that that's a bad thing. Like we have a whole row of empty buildings right now because they're not doing well there.
But without any changes, we still have this.
And we'll do, next week or next month, we'll be back to address those concerns. And I think you're right. We can't go outside the bounds of what we're allowed to do. So we don't want to break any rules, that's for sure.
But not necessarily adding things. I'm talking about the existing, what they're proposing. I realize that it's crazy amount of variance, but in this case, I feel that that area is becoming a bit of a wasteland with all those empty properties. I'm more in favor of doing things to make them succeed.
We have to look at what we've got. Say either meets or doesn't. And for
And why?
variance.
Yep.
Right.
So,
And to your point, Tim Hortons didn't have any signs on the side of facing Meyer. They don't have any signs on that wall. Whereas at least we have, well, that's our huge wall right now. So at least that'll help. And one of them being illuminated too. So. And our Popeye sign on the other side is much more, noticeable than their little Canadian leaf on the Tim Hortons on that one side, which is a very small sign.
So if I may, just in terms of process here. So again, before the board this evening, the applicant has 4 separate variance requests in the conditional use. If they are wishing to, add anything on, they would certainly have to come back, apply for a different variance, or if they wanted to modify their application or continue it to next month, they could, request that this evening, and then it, be on next month's agenda.
I think we would prefer, again, whatever you guys feel like approve. And then if we have to come back, after we can't make these decisions.
Right.
It'll have to be Popeye's corporate, and address that issue. I got a good feeling though they'll be back with a resolution for that particular issue.
So can we perhaps go through?
yeah, we should.
We
But I
should.
want to make sure there's no other public comment.
Just services.
Okay, I didn't want to leave you out of the conversation.
See anyone else?
Blue shirt, just
Okay.
flashing.
Yeah, I can't see the latest copy.
Yeah, we're a podium block.
So one quick point of clarification. So in the staff report, it outlines a couple different motions for the variances.
Right.
If you exclude the canopy signs, that total of 14 square feet, and remove that, for variance request number 3, the total square footage, removing those canopy signs, would be 354.02 square feet.
You said that was 195.
Yes, and that was 109% variance request, removing those canopy signs.
109.
195. And the total square footage, again, would be 354.02 square feet.
Do we have to do them in order? Could we jump to the back and do the monument and then come back and do these others?
Whatever you folks want to do,
Okay.
or whatever you're more comfortable with. I know it might make sense to start with the conditional use, so it's whatever you folks are more comfortable with.
Would someone like to make a motion on one of the 4?
I second.
No.
Oh, you want to make a
Haven't made the motion yet.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Based on these factors, I move to approve case number BACU 23-13 for property located at 9037 Owen Fields Drive, Lewis Center, Ohio 43035, seeking an area variance from Orange Township zoning resolution section 22.03C1 for the sign as identified in application BACU 20-13 to be installed at 16 feet and 2 1/2 inches in an area zoned planned commercial and office district.
I second.
Okay, motion to approve variance request number 1 for the wall sign height on the front of the building to be at a height of 16 feet 2 1/2 inches. Motion made by Ms. Neff, seconded by Ms. Sundar. Those voting, Mr. Trevs?
Yes.
Ms. Neff?
Yes.
Mr. Pax,
Yes.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
and Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
Okay.
I would make a motion for the variance two request two, based on the factors, I move to approve case number VA-CU-23-13 for property located at 9037 Owenfield Drive, Lewis Center, Ohio 43035, seeking an area variance from Orange Township zoning resolution section 22.03, C1 for the sign as identified in application VA-CU-23-13 to be installed at 16 feet in an area zone planned commercial and an office district.
Second.
Motion to approve variance request number 2 for the wall sign height on the north side of the building to be located at 16 feet maximum height, made by Ms. Sundar, seconded by Ms. Ross. Those voting, Mr. Treves,
Yes.
Ms. Neff,
Yes.
Mr. Pax,
Yes.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
and Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
Now, procedural question.
Mhm.
If we take a vote and get up or down on the next two, the continuance is gone?
So let's say in the scenario that the board approves the next 2 variances and they want to come back and propose additional signage, it would kind of reopen this variance request, so they need an additional variance to exceed the signage area even more than what they are already.
I just didn't want to do something that would preclude.
Sure. Yeah, we appreciate it.
Any other motions? We can private deliberation.
Correct. Yeah, if you wanted to go into private deliberations, we would just need a motion to go into deliberations.
I move that we go into private deliberations to discuss this.
I second.
Okay, those voting, Mr. Treves,
Yes.
Ms. Neff,
Yes.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Pax,
Yes.
and Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
Can we use that?
Yep.
room?
For Liberty Township?
Yeah.
Yes.
You ready to go?
Good to go.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to come back in from private session?
I move that we leave private deliberations and enter into public session.
Second?
Okay, those voting, Mr. Treves,
Yes.
Ms. Neff,
Yes.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Pax,
Yes.
and Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
Are you wanting to speak?
Oh, no. We're
Okay.
ready to hear your.
You look like you were all ready to go, so I wasn't sure.
I'll make a motion to approve, or based on these factors, I move to approve case number VA-CU 23-13 for property located at 9037 Owenfield Drive, Lewis Center, Ohio 43035, seeking an area variance from Orange Township zoning resolution, section 22.06J, for the total sign area of the property to be 352 and 200 square feet, as identified in application VACU 23-13 in an area zone planned commercial and office district PCD.
I deny.
No, we haven't voted yet. We just need a second.
Oh, okay, I
to get the
second. I'm
motion on
sorry.
the
I'm
table.
sorry. I second. Yeah.
Okay, now we have a motion and a second. Ms. Sundar.
So Ms. Sundar seconds.
Yep.
And this was a motion to approve the total sign area. And just one correction, I guess this is a typo in the staff report, so it should be 354 and 200s with the canopy signs removed. So motion made to approve for the total sign area of the entire property to be 354.02 square feet, made by Ms. Neff, seconded by Ms. Sundar. Those voting, Mr. Treves.
No.
Ms. Neff?
Yes.
Mr. Pax?
Abstain?
Ms. Ross?
No.
And Ms. Sundar?
No.
Okay, motion fails.
I make a motion to approve, based on these factors, I move to approve case number VACU 23-13 for property located at 9037 Owenfield Drive, Lewis Center, Ohio 43035, seeking an area variance from Orange Township zoning resolution, section 22.06J, for the total area of the north building sign to be 170 and 4100 square feet as identified in the application VACU 23-13 in an area zone planned commercial and office district PCD.
I second.
Okay, motion to approve the fourth variance request for the total sign area of the north side of the building to be 170 and 4100 square feet as identified in the application. Motion made by Ms. Neff, seconded by Ms. Sundar. Those voting, Mr. Treves?
No.
Ms. Neff?
Yes.
Mr. Pax?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
No.
And Ms. Sundar?
No.
Motion fails.
Based on these factors, I move to approve case number VACU 23-13 for property located at 9037 Owenfield Drive, Lewis Center, Ohio 43035, seeking a conditional use from the Orange Township zoning resolution, section 22.04, to allow for the construction of a monument sign as identified in application VACU 23-13 in an area zone planned commercial and office district PCD.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve the conditional use for the monument sign made by Ms. Neff, seconded by Ms. Ross. Those voting, Mr. Treves?
Yes.
Ms. Neff?
Yes.
Mr. Pax?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
And Ms. Sundar?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Board, and I'll follow up with you in a response letter outlining
no opportunity to make those changes. Yeah.
I mean, the board did give you the opportunity to speak before the motions were made.
There's a chance to get some guidance, so what can we do here?
Can't provide guidance.
Correct. Yeah, the board is not able to negotiate with applicants. The board is tasked with, making the decisions with the materials and the requests in front of them. It's up to the applicants, to modify their requests, continue their requests, table their requests as necessary if they feel the board is, leaning one way or the other. So it's up to the applicant.
So can we reopen this at the next hearing? I'm trying to figure out the avenue.
Sure. Yeah. So I would say probably the best avenue is applying for another variance, just depending on what you're looking at doing. If it's modifying some of the signage on the site, I believe a substantial change is required to be made before you apply for another variance. You can't just keep reapplying for the same variance over and over. Yeah. So just depends on the changes that you make, and we can move from there. So. Like I said, I'll follow up with a response letter based on the board's actions this evening, and then we can be in touch for the future actions.
And what's our timeline to get on to apply?
So the deadline for the August meeting is today. So the next hearing deadline to submit would be August 17th, and that would put you on for the September 14th agenda.
We just get rid of these shutters and call it a day. I mean, that would have totally done that had I gave it. I kind of made that.
The best we could do is a continuance, but you would have to resubmit materials, right?
Correct. Yeah. Since the board has made action on the case before them this evening, the applicant would have to resubmit, and a substantial change would have to be made. I don't have a calculator. I can't do the math in front of me right this second, but based upon what those changes are made or what that looks like, it could probably be a different application, which should be able to move forward and be heard before the board this evening or next evening.
There are no rules where we can reopen the motions or vote or anything.
I guess technically, the board is able to negate any decisions that they've made. Let's say if a conditional use is granted for a home occupation a year ago and, they weren't following what they said they were going to do, the board can revoke that conditional use or anything that's been granted. So that'd be like a revocation.
Quick question. If they were to be given a continuance, would they still have to submit their new materials today to make the next?
I don't think they can be given a continuance because we voted, but I'm wondering, would you guys be open to negating what we just did if they were willing to take the shutters off today?
That's a change. That change has to be presented to us.
Correct. And for a continuance, the applicant themselves has to request a continuance. As far as timeline, I know that was your question. So for continuances, we send materials out to the board members a week in advance. So that's usually our general rule, is as long as things are submitted, a little over a week before time, and it gives us staff enough time to look it over and, distribute those materials accordingly. So that's kind of our general time frame for continuances.
I would.
Is that something we can do? We'd like to continue it for the next meeting in August.
Okay. With that, we can then vote, right?
Can we revoke the motion, what we did
Can I make a
now?
motion to negate
So-
some of the rulings or what we just did?
This would be a great opportunity or a great question for legal if they were here.
I know that in our training, he mentioned we could do that. I just don't know how.
Right, so that's kind of what I was referencing with revoking, things that were previously granted.
It's my opinion, and that's all it is. But if we made a motion to negate or revoke two of them, then we could hear a petition for continuance and then take a motion on it, and all of them.
Wanting to overrule. It's kind of like if there was a variance, last year that was denied, and then the board wanted to reopen that variance because it was denied. I think denials are a little bit different, where a substantial change has to be made by the applicant if they want to reapply.
If they want to just continue, like for the August, they will come up with the new materials. So can we just revoke what we had a motion for? Or table? Is that an option?
Tabling is an option, but again, I think we're running into the fact that
We already voted. Is it possible to?
It's those two features. That's as a resident of Orange Township.
Yeah, and if we looked at that tree again today, I think once we have to get the survey done, the big tree doesn't block the sign, we should be okay. There's no reason to move it, I don't think. It's just me, I understand. And I think they're into flags, so whether they use that one or put a different one on, I would highly recommend. Just keep losing trees. I understand. I'm a cell phone number for anybody at least. I just hate to see. I need to. It's prime time to be more. Yeah. He's getting under the roof.
Yeah, I mean, to revote. There's nothing in our.
And revote.
No, just bring it up again and then vote. I don't think so either, but that's why I was asking.
Yeah, again, it really doesn't outline situations like these in the zoning resolution, or give kind of a procedure or process to follow for these. Typically, again, the usual format for these is, if the applicant does not like the board's decision, they are responsible for filing the necessary applications, fees, whatever, making those substantial changes and then going before the board again.
Is it possible to change the date? Give a new date to get it on the August? I mean, I know it's tonight, but if they got it to you in the next 5 business days or what? Tomorrow morning. By evening. That works.
So I guess one option I see, so on our calendar that's been adopted by the Board of Zoning Appeals
Yeah.
for the 2023 calendar year, you guys could make an amendment to that calendar to, yeah, to just modify the deadline for the August hearing date to July 21st.
Yes. I heard like the gentleman saying like you can do it by tonight, right?
So,
So the end of the day tomorrow, 5 p.m.
Yeah, our
Business
offices
day.
close at 4:30. So
4 o'clock. I move that we adjust the date to July 21st at 4 p.m.
for the August 17th.
for the August
Yep.
meeting.
I second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Treves to amend the adopted 2023 BZA schedule for the 2023 calendar year, moving the July 20th deadline for the August 17th hearing to July 21st at 4 p.m., seconded by Ms. Sundar. Those voting, Mr. Treves,
Yes.
Ms. Neff,
Yes.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Pax,
Yes.
and Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for that, I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Took us a while to figure out how to do something.
Yeah, this is Jeopardy.
That does save a month, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
That'd be great.
Okay.
The next part is really boring. We're approving minutes, and you all don't have to stay for it.
Run when you can.
Thank you so much for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
My first experience is great.
Thank you for coming, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so for time's sake, we did receive a number of corrections to the minutes. So if the board is comfortable, you can make a motion to approve the minutes subject to staff and board comments. And we have all those compiled in a list rather than me reading for the next 25 minutes. So
And so I wasn't here for April, so I abstained, correct?
you can, if you have familiarized yourself.
Vote for it.
Oh, okay.
That's typically the rule of thumb, is if you're able to familiarize yourself with, the application or the minutes. That's kind of, so, even if you weren't here. So
May I do a motion to include all 3 minutes?
absolutely.
I move that we approve the minutes of April 20th, May 18th, and June 15th, 2023, as amended by staff and board comments.
Second?
Okay, motion to approve April 20th, May 18th, and June 15th minutes subject to staff and board comments made by Ms. Ross, seconded by Ms. Neff. Those voting, Mr. Treves,
Yes.
Ms. Neff,
Yes.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Pax,
Yes.
and Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
Okay, great. Just a couple other housekeeping items. So I believe you folks should have gotten a postcard in the mail for the zoning code open house next Wednesday from 6 to 8 o'clock in the evening. So feel free to swing by. We've got a number of really engaging boards and kind of areas for you folks to attend, and certainly we'll want your feedback for those. On the back side of the postcard as well, there is a survey link to our active transportation plan. Where I think there's a QR code. If you scan that, it should take you to a survey. Just kind of shows a couple proposed projects to look that we're looking to do with our active transportation plan. And then finally, Andrew has it up on the board here. I did print this out for all of you as well. This is Q1 and Q2 zoning permit report. So it's certainly been a busy year thus far. At this point in time last year, we had 346 total permits, whereas we're already at 500. And then again, almost $77 million in total capital investments. That includes, decks, pools, patios, to new single-family homes, to commercial new builds, signage costs, exterior modifications, all of those. So certainly a lot of work being done in the township. It's kind of cool to track it all and be a part of it, huh? So,
That is a cool way to.
that's all that staff has this evening. So if there's anybody else that has anything else.
And we're adjourned.
Thank you, Brett.